Hi guys, it's Spoopy. I've been thinking a lot about kind of my goal for what I'm going to be talking about, and I was going to have a several part series on kind of my story, but um, I just had a friend come to me in confidence about some things, and I realized in that conversation that it probably wouldn't be conducive for me to do several parts. So I'm just going to go ahead and do pretty much my entire mental health journey, starting from when I was a kid to now. Um, so I'm in Austin, Texas. This is downtown. I'm sitting at the front office of my apartment complex, and it's wonderful. And usually, one of these conversations you would have like on your couch or something like that. But because of where I've been and what I've been doing in my life, Austin really stands for hope for me. And so, just kind of, it's symbolic to me, being out of my comfort zone and healing while out of my comfort zone. And I mean, this view is gorgeous. It's kind of grainy right now, but if you were here and you were seeing this, it's just breathtaking. So I'm instead of doing a live video, I had to pre-record it because there's no Wi-Fi up here, but that's okay. Um, so it's really difficult. So if I start crying, you know why, because this is just a really hard subject. I do have my roommate who's over here, who's sitting with me for moral support, because this is just, it's really difficult. We both struggle with mental illness. And so she understands. And I was like, hey, I'm going to be doing a probably 15-minute long video on mental illness. Do you want to sit and watch me to make sure I don't cry? She was like, yeah, sure. So she's here and she's here for moral support. So basically, my mental health journey started when I was in high school. Um, I was always thought of as like the hyper one, the bubbly one, stuff like that, which I am. It's just whenever people would say you're really bubbly and you're like the perfect person, and then I would hit with depression phase. I am bipolar, so I'll have like both manic phases and depressive phases. So the manic phases are when I'm hyper and kind of ADHD, and then if that doesn't get under control, my brain overcompensates and puts me through a depressive phase to try to overcompensate for the extra hyper hormones, I guess. I'm gonna position this just a little bit better. Anyway, um, so when I was in high school, I would always have these depression bouts, and then be super hyper and then depressive again and stuff like that. And it was just very hard for me because during these depressive phases, I, even if somebody told me that they were proud of me, even if somebody told me that they loved me, even if somebody was there for me and they were genuine, for whatever reason in my depressive phase, I thought they were lying to me. I thought they were making a joke. I thought that they were just pitying me. And so I really didn't connect with anybody during those phases, just because I thought everything around me was a lie. Um, I was raised Christian, so whenever I went to youth camp and stuff like that, I would have like the older people, not older people, but the people who I looked up to would come up to me and be like, "Wow, you're so full of Jesus and you're so full of the Holy Spirit, and we want to be like you." And so these people I admired, in this faith that I found, um, it it was really cool. But at the same time, whenever I got hit with a depressive phase, and they're like, "Well, you're so full of the Holy Spirit, we want to be exactly like you." Well, when the Holy Spirit left, which was my manic phase, and I was hit with depressive phase, I kind of turned atheistic, agnostic, because I thought, well, if if I did have the Holy Spirit during that time, well, where is he now? Where is he in the middle of my pain? And it was very hard for me because my entire life was Christian. I went to a Christian high school. All my extracurricular activities were around Christian people. And so whenever that happened and I felt God had left me, it made it even worse. And it was really hard. So that was in high school. And when I went to college, things changed a little bit. I had less anger, just because I got to do things on my own and I got to do things my own way. which it's not really that bad, but I was on my own. I was in a town that was exciting and new. Well, as exciting as Lubbock, Texas can be. Um, but I got to do things on my own, and just being able to heal on my own without, my parents around me, which my parents are wonderful people, but they just don't understand mental illness. Um, and so I was on my own, I was healing on my own, and it was wonderful. And then a depressive phase hit me, and I didn't know what was going on. Um, the depressive phases that hit you when you least expect it, when everything is going wonderfully, and then it just hurts. It hurts to think, it hurts to do, it hurts to put your favorite t-shirt on, it hurts to make your favorite meal. And then whenever you're making your own food and you're eating your favorite food, or eating food at all, it just all tastes like mashed potatoes. And it doesn't matter how much you try to season your mashed potatoes or whatever, you give up because everything tastes like mashed potatoes. And then when somebody comes up to you and they're like, well, try seasoning your mashed potatoes, or try eating something else. I can't freaking eat anything without it tasting like mashed potatoes. Sorry, I'm obsessing over mashed potatoes. But that's basically what doing anything on depression is like. And it sucks. It's really hard. And I was hit with a depressive phase my first semester at Texas Tech University. That's when I found Humans vs. Zombies. That's when I started being really heavily involved in the Nerf community. And it was wonderful. It was great. I found my group of people, my family, and doing missions, and even being violently attacked by zombies was fun. And facing my fear of losing, facing my fear of not being perfect. I guess you can't. I guess it depends on who you are as a person, but when I'm playing human, being perfect is lasting all week until the very, very end. My being perfect as a zombie is the goal of how many humans I've tagged. And so, especially when I was human, I was facing my fear of not being perfect, and being active and being around my family. HVZ family really helped me. It was wonderful, and it was great. And then when I was hit with a manic phase, it was even more great because I had the energy to keep up, and I had the energy to literally go from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. constantly running and having 3 hours of sleep a night for HVZ, and planning and doing and being zombie commander and being human commander and whatever else I was doing that semester. And then the depression phase hit. Wow, I can't talk. And usually those happened outside of the HVZ week. But it was great because my HVZ family was there for me. Whenever I would go off the radar for a week, less than a week, 4 days, I would have people from HVZ contact me and be like, oh my God, dude, where are you? We haven't heard from you in 4 days. Are you dead? And I would get forced to get out of bed, and it's hard. It was fucking hard. Everything's so hard when you've got depression. And they were there for me, and I didn't really know what was going on with me. And then last year, I guess 2016, I graduated from Texas Tech, and I was no longer able to play HVZ with Texas Tech because of some local laws going on that I was just not able to as a community member, even though I was still technically a student in the system. There's local laws that prevented me from playing, which was heartbreaking, and I cried a lot. 2016, I graduated from Texas Tech, and in 2017, January 2017, so I graduated December 2016, January 2017, I found myself pregnant, and it was terrible. I mean, the pregnancy was wonderful. I was very excited about it. But what was to come next was absolutely terrible. There were some issues kind of with my blood work, and stuff like that. And so they were like, hey, you need to come back in and they basically were like, okay, something's going on. We don't know what's wrong. So on Valentine's Day, I found out that I was both, one, having a girl, and two, I was not. Um, we found out that through the blood work and stuff like that, that I was going to be, I had conceived a girl. Um, and the same day we found out I was also miscarrying. Um, she did not have a heartbeat. She was not forming, and it was the most heartbreaking experience of my life. I ended up having a DNC. I don't really remember what that stands for, but basically what it does is they suction everything out of my uterus, because I've got anemia and other things going on that I could not naturally miscarry. I mean, I could have, but it would have just been really, really difficult on my body. And so I decided to have a DNC, and that surgery was very traumatic. I'm legally blind without these glasses on, and the operating room was very white, and the nurses were white, and they were wearing white scrubs and everything, and so I couldn't see anything because it was all blurry. When I felt the anesthesia go into my arm, it burned, and then before I was even out, I felt people spread my legs open and start touching me and hurting me, and then I was out. That's the less gruesome part of that telling of my operation, just because I know a lot of people have weak stomachs, and so I'm not going to go in too much detail, but that's basically what it was. And through that miscarriage and through that surgery, which was very traumatic for me, I ended up getting PTSD. And it's very, very difficult for me to be around medical professionals and stuff like that. Being touched, I get flashbacks, and everybody's trauma is their trauma. I'm not afraid of snakes, but my sister is deathly afraid of snakes. And if somebody threw a snake at me, it wouldn't be traumatic, but if somebody threw a snake at my sister, it would be traumatic. And so my trauma may not seem much compared to trauma that a lot of people have faced, but it is my trauma, and it hurts. And I know people who have been in accidents and situations in the military and other things like that, where PTSD has come about because of these issues, and it's heartbreaking. And now I'm thinking about my surgery, and I'm having a little bit of a flashback, so just bear with me. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Just give me a second. Okay. So after the surgery and everything like that, I had depression, and it wasn't because of my bipolar this time. It was because I lost someone I loved. Basically, I wanted to have a child. It was not a planned pregnancy, but when I found out I was pregnant, my immediate reaction was, "Oh my God, I'm going to be a mother. It's going to be wonderful." But I was so scared, right? But then the miscarriage happened, and it sucked. Um, and then other things happened, where I was in a very bad place in my life. I ended up getting kicked out of my house, just due to personal issues. I had to find a new place to live, when I had $3 to my name. And during that time, it was difficult for me because I lost my best friend. I lost my child a couple of months prior. I wasn't in school anymore. I didn't have my HVZ family because of those local laws that were still taking place. I was alone. And I started hanging around people who were my HVZ friends, who were still living in Lubbock, because a lot of people go to Lubbock to go to school and then they leave. And they really helped me, even though I didn't get to play the game and be in missions and get to tag humans or get to slay zombies. I was still with my friends, and during that time was really dark, and I haven't really been open about it. But I tried to commit suicide, but not in, like, I wasn't going to shoot myself. I wasn't going to hang myself. I wasn't going to cut myself or anything like that. I just lost the will to live. I didn't know what I had planned, but I was in my head trying to figure out how this is going to go down because I didn't want to survive it. I would go days without eating just to basically be like, if I starve to death, that's fine. I don't care. And again, my HBZ friends, they didn't really see that part of me. They just saw, oh, she lost her best friend and she lost um, her baby. She needs a friend. And they took me out and, um, you know, we would watch movies. We would do all sorts of things. We would hang out and they would be my friends, you know. And it was difficult. It was very difficult. I was still struggling with bipolar. I'd only just been diagnosed at that point, and it was still difficult. Looking for help was the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life. And it wasn't easy at all. Because it's not. The only easy thing that you've ever done is survive yesterday. Today, it's about 9 o'clock here in Texas right now. Surviving until 10 is really difficult, you know. Tomorrow is going to be very hard. Reaching out to get help was the hardest thing I've ever had to do, and I'm not going to lie. That was literally the hardest. Getting myself motivated to do it. Having to just pick up the phone, to even search on Google was difficult, and I did. And I ended up finding a wonderful counselor who was helping me through a lot of things. So I really wanted to go to grad school around that time, but I knew the finances and stuff like that I couldn't. I really wanted to be a forensic anthropologist. Basically what that is if you've ever seen Bones on television, kind of like that, but, you know, less Hollywood. I really wanted to do that. I really wanted to be somebody who would help people, help, you know, be help identify people once they've passed away, who were murdered, etc. And I would want to do that. But because of the hormone changes after my pregnancy, my dream that I had was crushed because I couldn't stomach even watching an action movie and hearing bones get, like, you know, broken. You know what I'm talking about with action movies. But I knew I still wanted to go to grad school. And watching Robler on YouTube and Facebook and doing the things that he wanted to do, especially at that time, I was just like, I'd been to Thunderdome once. I was a part of the NVZ crew. I helped put that on in Springfield, Missouri, and it was really fun. But Thunderdome was my favorite because Robler showed his passion, and Robler was the reason that I basically kind of got off my butt and started applying to grad schools, because I knew that if somebody could do that with PTSD, and somebody could do that with what was going on in Rob's life at that time, if he could put together something that amazing, then I could get off my butt and apply to grad school. It wasn't the career I originally wanted, but I found something much better for me. I'm getting my master's in divinity right now, so I want to be a pastor. I want to write books. I want to help people, and I'll still be able to help people, but I don't have to touch dead bodies in the process, so that's pretty cool. But I'm in grad school because of a man named Robler who lives in Springfield, Missouri, and then he invited me to collaborate on his channel, which is this is what you're seeing, and he's a wonderful, amazing person. If you haven't got to know him, dude, get to know him, because he's awesome. But that's my mental health journey thus far. I haven't dealt with all of it, but at least I understand, and I know how to listen because I've been there. But like I said, I was going to do this in parts, but I think just hearing the full story together is much more powerful than part 5 of 7 kind of thing. But anyway, guys, thanks for listening, and thanks for sticking out for the 20 minutes that we're on this video. Anyway, if you have any questions, feel free to contact me, and I will be posting later. Thanks, guys, for listening.